Tonight, Premier Scott Moe arrives in India with the Prime Minister. Regina's downtown parking meters go cashless. And reimagining a Shakespearean play without words.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, February 27th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. Premier Scott Moe has arrived in India alongside Prime Minister Mark Carney. They are seeking new ways to diversify and expand Canada's trade, and New Delhi is signaling it has a big appetite for many things Canada has to offer. Catherine Cullen has our top story.
The Prime Minister has come to India looking to rewrite the relationship with a big emphasis on investment and trade. Saskatchewan's Premier has traveled with him, hopeful Canada is making up for lost time with India.
Then I would say from a trade perspective that we've fallen behind a number of other countries around the world.
This is a big reset.
India is keen too. The High Commissioner says his country wants a lot of what Canada is selling, particularly energy, from nuclear to oil and gas.
Energy, there is appetite to which even Canada cannot fulfill. And we're willing to buy whatever Canada is offering on crude, on LPG, on LNG.
A far cry from recent years, from Justin Trudeau's awkward visit to 2023 allegations Indian agents were involved in the murder of a Sikh activist in BC. But Carney has made it clear he wants to defrost the relationship and jumpstart trade talks.
India is the most populous country in the world. It is the fourth largest economy. It is the fastest growing economy, and it's an important geopolitical actor. For us to be able to diversify non-U.S. exports, India has to be a critical part of that puzzle.
Saskatchewan's Premier says he's hopeful a new pipeline to Canada's west coast could be part of the answer.
I would suggest that we as Canadians have a responsibility to provide and displace some of the dirtier forms of energy, some of the more unethical forms of energy.
But questions hang over the two countries' security relationship after one federal official told journalists the violence and repression fueled by the Indian government has stopped. Activists from Canada's Sikh community insist the intimidation continues.
I said it was the 800-pound gorilla. It's the issue that could derail this reset.
Government officials insist there is an ongoing conversation about security right alongside the talk of trade. Carney is beginning his trip here in the country's business capital. On Monday in New Delhi, he'll meet with India's Prime Minister. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Mumbai.
China, meanwhile, has officially announced it will suspend some agricultural tariffs on Canada beginning Sunday. It's part of an initial deal the Prime Minister struck with China last month. China says it will suspend 100% tariffs on canola meal and pea imports, and it will halt 25% tariffs on lobster and crab imports from March 1st through the end of 2026. The initial deal also included canola seed tariffs, but the Chinese announcement made no mention of those. But here in Saskatchewan, there is optimism in the agriculture industry.
It's positive to see that there is trade optimism for the crops we're about to put in the ground in the next 60 days. So it is it's a welcomed announcement that we've been hoping for quite a while. The market has signaled right now that it is not profitable to plant peas and pulses. So by lifting peas, tariff on peas, that's some positivity, and we might see some increased acres going in this spring. This last year has been stressful for most of us. And this will be a positive kickoff to our growing season.
Now, this news isn't just impacting farmers in this province. Next door, the Premier of Manitoba says the news is a good thing, but Wab Kinew says many people in Western Canada also want to see levies lifted on pork.
Canola is huge for Manitoba. We've got a ton of exporters here, not to mention all the farmers in the province. So for all those folks, this is a positive step forward to have better access to one of the biggest markets in the world. But at the same time, pork is big in Manitoba too. So we're going to keep working with the federal government and keep pushing forward, and hopefully we see some positive news on the pork side as well too soon.
And once Scott Moe is back from India, he'll arrive just in time for the start of a new sitting of the provincial legislature. Alexander Kwan tells us what we can expect from that.
We're in a challenging time. across Canada, and you're going to see that.
Premier Scott Moe has often tried to be positive about Saskatchewan's finances, but he says this upcoming budget is going to be a deficit. The only question now is how big it'll be. He's also promised a budget with no tax hikes and no cuts to services, which leaves one way to pay for things.
Well, they're going to have to borrow.
One political expert says taking on debt leaves the government open to attacks from all sides of the political spectrum.
Right-of-center think tanks like the Canadian Taxpayers Federation find borrowing to be fundamentally wrong as a policy choice because they worry about the long-term consequences of floating government bonds.
And it's already something the NDP has seized on.
And he certainly did not mention, let alone take responsibility for, the fact that we're paying $1 billion every year just to finance that debt that he has been growing.
The budget will be a topic looming large over the start of this new legislative sitting, before its expected release on March 18th. In terms of other business this sitting, the NDP is facing a familiar problem. How do you communicate your message when you're not in power? The party plans to double down on its use of private members' bills.
I would say to the Premier and the government, you're going to get a whole lot of what would we do in the upcoming session.
The NDP's plan to introduce rent control is already dead in the water, but political experts say private members' bills are useful tools, especially for Carla Beck.
I think a lot of people still, don't really know what she stands for as a leader and what the alternative to Scott Moe would be were she premier. So maybe this is their opportunity to really put, some boots on the ground and say this is how we would govern differently.
The government has its own legislative agenda, including a still-to-be-passed act on involuntary treatment for people struggling with drug addiction. And Moe has said his government is looking at new and innovative ways to deliver services, including in healthcare. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The provincial government has launched a national campaign aimed at recruiting more police officers. It's called In Saskatchewan, It All Lives Here. The campaign touts the province as a place to build a career and raise a family. It highlights Saskatchewan's living costs, communities, and the activities offered year-round. The government hopes it will attract people from across the country.
We've been recruiting within the province for years, right? And we're just not able to fill all the spots. So what do? You got to spread your wings and reach out to other provinces across the nation, and that's exactly what this campaign is doing. And today is one of the easiest days I've ever had. I get to stand up and talk about how much I love this province and why people should come and start a policing career here. And I get to talk about the great officers and the great experience you have as a police officer in this province. And I've seen it firsthand on the ride-alongs that I've done and the interaction I have with our police services. So I'm very optimistic about the ability to spread the word across the country and attract some very qualified candidates to our province.
Over this next fiscal year, the Saskatchewan government is putting $6 million toward hiring 100 new frontline officers. Another $1.6 million will go to the province's police college to train new recruits. The spare change in your cup holder will no longer work if you're parking in downtown Regina starting this weekend. The city is changing its parking payment to a cashless system. Eric Stakowicz has more.
As of Sunday, you won't be able to put coins in parking meters in downtown Regina. The city is switching to an app for parking payment. It's all in an effort to save the city money.
So this was a decision through the 2026 budget process. Through the budget deliberation, City Council made the decision to remove the option for using coins at our paid parking stalls downtown.
And while the change might be trivial to some say it could be difficult for others to make the switch.
I think this is going to affect those in poverty the most. They're going to struggle a lot. They're going to need a phone plan. They're going to need internet. And that could be tough for some of them, so I think they'll be most impacted.
Rudolph says he's used coins before, but will adapt to the new methods of payment. For others, there's little change. One woman who works downtown says it's been a while since she's paid with coins.
I would say months. I don't even really think about it, right? It's if I have it on me, but I use the app all the time, so.
Robinson says the decision will not deter her from visiting downtown, but that might not be the case for everyone.
I think it's a disadvantage for people that don't have smartphones. My mother comes to mind where she still drives, but she would never be able to park if it was only on an app. So it's a disadvantage for our seniors for sure.
Instructions on how to pay can be found online or on all existing parking meters. Eric Sakwich, CBC News, Regina.
Well, what a difference a day makes. We were sunny, warm, and calm for the last couple of days here, and now getting cloudier, much colder, and yes, windier as well. But you know what they say, if you don't like the weather, just wait a day or two. The weather seesaw is about to go the other way, and weather specialist Mickey Wolf has all the details in her forecast coming up after the break. Many parts of the world are experiencing rapid swings between very dry and very wet conditions, including at times here in Saskatchewan, and the whiplash is becoming more extreme as the planet warms. As Johanna Wagstaff explains, it is easier to understand if we see Earth's atmosphere as a sponge, one that's getting heavier.
Does it feel like we're stuck in a loop? Droughts, floods, droughts, floods, droughts, floods. There's a new explanation from scientists around why this keeps happening. Turns out the explanation is as simple as using a sponge. Hydroclimate whiplash is the sudden and frequent switch from very wet to very dry or very dry to very wet. So think of the atmosphere as a sponge. As water evaporates from oceans, lakes, soil, plants, the atmosphere soaks it up. And at a certain point, the air can only hold so much. The water vapor condenses into clouds, and it rains. Eventually, the water will evaporate again, the sponge will soak it up, starting the cycle once more. But what if you had a bigger sponge? As the atmosphere warms up, it can hold more moisture. Basically, at higher temperatures, molecules move at faster speeds, so they're more likely to jump into the water vapor phase and condense into clouds. This is our atmosphere on climate change, soaking up more water, creating drier conditions, and dumping it back down on us, which is why we get floods. For each degree Celsius of warming, the atmosphere's ability to hold more water vapor goes up by about 7%. According to a new review paper, this whole process of soaking up and dumping out is happening faster, hence the term hydroclimate whiplash. In the past, there could be years, even decades, between the driest and the wettest season, and now they're often happening back to back. Globally, whiplash events have increased by about 50% in a 40-year period, and that means more of all the hazards that come with wet and dry, from heat waves and wildfires to flash floods and landslides, and they're feeding off each other.
And what we saw recently in Los Angeles was exactly this. Like, we had very wet conditions previously, and then transit over the summer and into this winter into very dry conditions. And the problem with that is that if you have wet conditions, you have a lot of vegetation growth. And then if you go into very dry conditions, the vegetation dries out, and then you have a lot of fuel for fire.
And no surprise here, the review also found that hydroclimate whiplash will continue to ramp up as the Earth heats up.
Well, what we see at the moment is just the beginning. Canada is one of the hotspots where you see this changes, this increases happening the fastest globally.
So that means these headlines aren't going away anytime soon. But here's the positive. Climate scientists are now working to plug all of this into climate models and get better forecasts for those quick and extreme turnarounds, so those of us on the ground can better prepare for a bigger sponge.
And weather specialist Mickey Wolf joining us now. Seems that we are experiencing our own bit of weather whiplash these last few days, Mickey.
We absolutely are in that whiplash phase, Ethan. We've seen super warm temperatures and we're seeing very cold temperatures moving into this weekend. Let's take a look at some of the active watches and warnings. Now, we are seeing heavy precipitation in that southwest corner of the province for Maple Creek and remote municipalities around there. We're expecting 15 to 20 total centimeters of snowfall heading into tomorrow morning. That's total, mind you, from today into tomorrow. As well, we have a cold warning active for parts of the far north as well as east central. We're seeing temperatures going down to as low as -50 with wind chill for the far north. And just a good reminder, here's some freeze times, folks. You know, if you need to be outside tonight, tending to the car, in a little bit of a commute situation, just a reminder that frostbite is real, and to be extra careful if you're in a very cold zone. And we are seeing those daytime temperatures cooling down again. You know, we've had some very warm temperatures this week for the southwest, across the central region, and now we're starting to get back to that seasonally regulated temperature below zero. We're also seeing, again, we've got that snow hanging out in the skies just around that southwest corner of the province. Now we have a high pressure system moving into Saskatchewan overnight and into tomorrow, so we will see a good amount of sunlight, if that's any consolation for people in some of those colder areas. And then we've got a low pressure system moving in into Monday. As far as snowfall, again, you can see those heavier amounts. This is from 6 p.m. tonight into tomorrow. And we will see a little bit for the central region, but not too much. And as we take a look at the north, that's going to be a bit more of a gradual snowfall. Now, here are our wind chills. We're back down to cold mornings, especially again for folks in Stony Rapids near -50. Hudson Bay also very close to -40. So take care out there if you're out tonight on a Friday night, even in Regina. This is our base low, but things will feel colder with wind chill. We are looking at a bit of a warm up as we get into Monday and Tuesday. We will see that come back to us again on Friday for Regina, and it's a little bit cooler for Saskatoon in the central region. We're getting quite a bit of snow Wednesday, around 5 centimeters, but as we get closer to Wednesday, we should have more specific numbers, more solid numbers for you folks in Saskatoon. So Ethan, we're just ramping up to winter, we're ramping up to spring. I'm ready for the seesaw to just kind of settle down.
In the meantime, I guess we'll just enjoy the ride, as it were.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mickey.
Thank you, Ethan.
A Regina theatre company made up entirely of deaf or hard of hearing actors is performing a unique take on a well-known play. They're performing Shakespeare's The Tempest at Regina's Performing Arts Centre until Saturday, but the play is being presented with accessibility in mind.
We have made it Shakespeare for everyone. We have removed all language. This is probably the first of its kind of Shakespeare that you will see, in that we've removed signed language, English language. The entire story is being told with physical theater, puppetry, and projections. We have an all deaf or hard of hearing cast. So the process itself has been about 3 years in the making. So we started off after our last show, a short film we had made, saying, okay, what can we do to push the envelope? We've always wanted to do Shakespeare. We always found that Shakespeare was something that was not always accessible to our students. And so when we spoke to our students about it when they were in high school, they talked a lot about wanting to know more about Shakespeare. So we said, we're going to do a project. We are going to bring Shakespeare to them. Shakespeare's been shown kind of globally, right? And there's always so much talking in Shakespeare, and there's not really a lot of action. You really depend on a lot of the spoken word in Shakespeare. And in our show, it is all body. It is all with our body. And I think that is really amazing. It's been a good challenge for us. It's a good challenge for deaf, hard of hearing, hearing. It doesn't matter. It's for a whole spectrum of individuals, and they will be able to see and understand. The process was a lot. There were a lot of things. There's a lot of dance, a lot of action, having to be quiet and think of how we would show those stories and the purpose and the meaning. So as a spirit, I have to really work hard on showing those emotions with my body without language. Audiences, regardless if they're hearing, if they're deaf, if they're hard of hearing, if they're newcomer Canadians, regardless of the language you speak or your hearing status, you're going to understand the show. So we focused a lot on physical theater, on clown, on acrobatics, puppetry, projections, mime. We've brought every aspect of performance to the stage for this. We've got some choreographed dance. It's a little bit of everything.
The University of Saskatchewan women's basketball team didn't just have a great record this season. The team has also picked up some hardware at the Canada West Major Awards. Head coach Lisa Tomaitis took home her 8th Coach of the Year award, while veteran guard Gage Grasick picked up the Player of the Year award. She is just the second player in program history to be given that award in consecutive seasons. Grasick was also recognized as a Canada West All-Star last week. Stay with us. We have more news and a final look at the forecast after the break. The city of Saskatoon has kicked off Cultural Diversity and Race Relations Month. It provides an opportunity to bring awareness about diversity, equity, and inclusion. The event kicked off inside Saskatoon City Council chambers Friday. Cultural Diversity and Race Relations Month happens annually in March. It first started in 1990. Those who attended heard from guests who told their stories and why the month is so important for them. One of the event's youth ambassadors immigrated from Georgia as a child. She wants more people to help newcomers feel comfortable.
Try to make a conversation with us. Try to get to know us more, so you can understand better that we are also human beings and we are not some aliens coming from Mars. We are also part of this community and this Canada because we came here.
After all the speeches, the race relations flag was raised in Civic Square outside City Hall. It will remain raised for 1 week. And Mickey is back now with a look at our sort of back and forth weekend forecast.
Ethan, it is a tug of war this weekend, but you know what, folks? At least we've got some sunny skies to look forward to for most of the province. Let's take a look at our overnight lows tonight because it is cold out there for most of us. In Saskatchewan, we're seeing those temperatures near -30 tonight for East Central, but again, wind chill will make things feel closer to -40, down to -45. And then in the far north, we've got clear skies tonight, but I wouldn't recommend any stargazing because things are going to feel closer to -50. Now, as we get into tomorrow, we will see those skies looking nice and clear for the most part across the north, but we're still seeing those very cold temperatures for northern Saskatchewan. In the south tomorrow, we are seeing a bit of a mix of sun and cloud for parts as well as the central region, but hopefully we get a little bit more sun out of that mix. We are seeing a cooler day than we have been over the past week. We've got those temperatures right near -20 for most of the central region and things a little bit closer to -10 in the south. So Ethan, you know, if you can brave it, maybe it's a good time to get out with some of those nicer skies this weekend, but I wouldn't fault anyone for sitting on a couch over this last February weekend.
Yeah, whether you're embracing it or not, a good weekend to everyone, I guess. Thank you, Mickey. And that is our news for this Friday. For more news anytime, you can always head to our website or our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend.